I'm sure you've seen all the hype around Apple's new VR, MR, AR headset, the Apple Vision Pro. And I'm not gonna talk about that in this video. I'm gonna talk about something a little bit different, but it certainly goes hand in hand with the Apple Vision Pro, and that's spatial video. I kind of look at this as that feature that kind of goes under the radar a little bit. It's a little bit of a sleeper, if you will. Everyone's excited about the Apple Vision Pro because of all the mixed reality kind of stuff you can do, and you can multitask, and it's got great pass-through and does all this cool stuff. But it also does spatial video, which is basically 3D video. And coming from somebody who has a Quest 2 and has done a little bit of work in VR, I've never really been a fan of the full 360 or 180 spherical video where you can kind of like look around, and it feels like a lot of work and it's never quite caught on. Maybe one day the technology will get there, but as far as creating that content, you really need 3D lenses in every single direction. You have crazy amounts of data. It's really hard to process. And so what ends up happening is you get a lot of 360 cameras that will do single dimension, not even single dimension, 2D, whatever it's called, where it's flat. So it looks like you're looking in like you're in a bubble or a sphere. I don't know how to describe it without you actually being inside a headset, but you have no depth perception. And even then, the novelty of looking around and experiencing your environment wears off pretty quick, especially because the resolution just isn't there. And again, if there's no depth, which some experiences do, but again, those are really high-end, really premium, really hard to create that type of content. However, spatial video could fix basically all of that. From my perspective, I don't want to be looking around and being in an environment. I want to look at what you want to tell me to look at. So if I have video, but now I have depth added to it, and it's as easy as creating it on an iPhone, and I can consume it on something like an Apple Vision Pro or the Meta Quest, because the Quest 3 now added spatial video functionality. This seems like kind of that tip of the iceberg where I don't think people are quite ready for what's going to happen in this space. You can create the content on your phone. That means it's just as easy as making a TikTok, which has exploded. Reels, shorts, social video is very, very popular, but now you get the added dimension of depth. And if you have enough consumers and customers, which now Apple is pushing for, although the headset is incredibly expensive, $3,500 is the starting price. Talk about after tax plus accessories, you're gonna spend a hefty amount. If you want the Apple insurance on it as well, good luck. That's gonna be a big price tag. But you look at the Meta Quest 3, that's a $500 headset, a lot more reasonable, and you can consume spatial video in addition to all the games and other VR things. So even though spatial video is not the main reason to use these headsets, I think it's a very cool reason and a cool feature that's built in where you can consume 3D content. I've never been a fan of the 3D movies, even Avatar and Avatar 2, for as popular as they are. I've never enjoyed the experience of putting on glasses, seeing a dim, kind of stuttery experience. It's just never been perfect for me. But when you wear these headsets, the lenses and the way it interacts with your eye, seeing the depth is a lot more digestible and palatable. I like it a lot better than a 3D movie. And let's be real, they were selling 3D TVs for a while and no one was buying those things. I don't know anyone who's putting on the shutter glasses at home to watch a 3D movie, but I know a lot of people who have headsets, the VR headsets, whether it's the Meta Quest one or the new Apple Vision Pro, and having content to consume in that space that's unique to that space is really cool. There were phones for a while and some displays that were trying to do the 3D effect, the Nintendo 3DS, and I think even Red had the hydrogen phone, which that kind of failed on launch. And that though was supposed to make 3D content, but there's really never been this perfect start to finish workflow or pipeline for creating this type of content. But if you put the creation of it on a smartphone, on a phone that basically everyone has because it's the iPhone, and you create the ecosystem where people are wearing these headsets and they have content to consume more passively, a sit back, relax, not an active game where I have to be moving or running around. I know that's not for everybody, but I think a lot of people like watching home videos or looking at photos and memories. Having depth in that environment is really, really valuable. And I think the more people who kind of test that out and try it, both on creating the content and consuming it, the more you'll see this push towards this new spatial video, which is just 3D video, but now in an environment, in an ecosystem where it makes sense and you don't need incredibly expensive cameras and you don't have to have a headset and look around and behind you to see what's going on. You can just consume the content in the way that we always have. Movies, for as much as people thought TV was gonna kill movies or VHS was gonna kill movies or DVD was gonna kill the movie theater, people are still going to the movies. They're not watching them in 3D because the experience is not all that great. But I think there is something to that. It was almost the movies and the cinema experience was too early, which tends to be the case with a lot of technology. There's always those early adopters. There's the people at the forefront pushing things, trying to make something cool like The Hobbit.
I'm Angus. Welcome to the world of
3D.
And experimenting with things like variable frame rate and 3D, and it just doesn't really work in that time. But you fast forward enough, you give it 10 years, you give it 20 years, and all of a sudden the technology and the whole system comes together in a way that's a lot more palatable. And your regular person can create the content and consume the content, and it's seamless, it's intuitive, it's easy. Digital video used to be this way. When I was coming up and I wanted to go to film school, everyone kind of asked, oh, you're gonna go to Hollywood, you're gonna make movies? Kind of being a little bit sarcastic maybe. And I said, no, internet video and digital video is the future. It's what's going to happen. And I went to film school and did the traditional, like, oh, you must go make movies. And I just didn't do that. I worked in the internet side of things, creating digital video, and that space has exploded. Look today, look at how many brands and people and influencers, everything is video. Every social media platform is video, every website is video, everything is video on the internet. Yes, photos still exist and people still create and consume photography, but video has exploded in a way that probably no one would have predicted 10, 20 years ago. But when you start to see those breadcrumbs and you follow that trail, and I'm starting to see that a little bit with spatial video. I think people are going to want those immersive experiences, especially when they have these headsets and they don't want to just be playing games or just be working all the time. They want more of that passive entertainment. But what's the value of just watching a flat movie on a headset? There really isn't one. You have a TV, you have a phone, you have an iPad, but none of those devices can give you the depth and the immersion that you get with spatial video, 3D video. So the more that people can make that content easily, whether it's with their iPhone or probably new cameras that are coming out or new systems. I've experimented myself with putting cameras together and what's it like to create a spatial video. It's a little clunky if you try and do it, manually yourself, but once we have products like the iPhone and more products coming soon, I'm sure, that allow you to capture depth in a video, and you have headsets that are becoming more and more ubiquitous, and then even into the future when we're talking about things like true augmented reality, where you're just looking through glasses and stuff is projected onto your retina. I'm sure we'll get there eventually. And we're just kind of at the first steps where it's finally becoming a little bit more consumer friendly than it ever was before. I would say start experimenting, play around with it. If you haven't, put on a headset, a VR headset, and you don't really know what that experience is like, try a MetaQuest 2 or the new MetaQuest 3. They're not all that expensive, and from a consumer standpoint and a creator standpoint, I always like to have that full circle myself. I want to know what it's like to consume the content so I know how better to create it. And I think spatial video is kind of the future in a lot of ways. Traditional video probably won't go away anytime soon. There'll still be people using smartphones and scrolling and doing all that stuff. But I can see this being kind of the seed that's planted of, okay, I understand why this is valuable, both from a creation and consumer standpoint, separate from 360 VR video. I think that has its place and it's fine. But again, the logistics of creating the content they're just so enormous that if you don't make it easy for your regular person to do it, you're only gonna have a very small catalog of content, and it's really not gonna be as creative and dynamic as what you're seeing now with social media, where basically everybody has a video camera in their pocket with their smartphone. If anyone can make a video, we have a lot more room for people to be creative, and I think the same will be true for spatial video. And then what a great thing just to be able to consume this new type of media that really we haven't had anything like before. But I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Do you have an Apple Vision Pro? If so, lucky you, let me know your thoughts. Or if you are a fan of the MetaQuest 3, let me know that as well. Or let me know if you hate VR and you don't like any of it at all. I'm sure there's a few of you out there that it probably makes you sick or something like that. So just let me know, I'd love to hear it.